Hey guys, it's Matt. Just 45 seconds and a few notes before Chapter 11. About 15 to 20 minutes from now into this presentation, that same section starts relating the fraternity to the egregore. As an example, is how this thing in the shadows that I call Not Nilk extracts energy, uses people without them knowing how they're being used. Now, many of you might want to check out because the premise of what was presented a few months ago is the same, but it is different in terms of the story. It's cleaned up. It's better, it's more interesting, so I hope you stick with me. But if you got to run, the basic premise when I start the fraternity as the egregore is the same, but I think this version is much better. Again, that starts roughly 15 to 20 minutes from now. Chapter 11. Just a tiny percentage of the population dives off the back of the ship of fools and swims for shore. Looking back, we don't recognize the part of us that was comfortable on that ship for so long. In Shawshank Redemption, Red talks about his younger self. Says, I want to talk to him. I want to talk some sense into him. Talks to his other self, or an aspect of himself as another person completely. Many of us do something similar. I've many times looked back at the Matt that, say, was working for the big insurance company in Los Angeles and San Francisco in the 90s, saying, who was that person? Why didn't I see this or that? How could I have been so fooled? What was my mindset at the time? Did I take a download? That person or who I was seems to be the same me, of course, but also an aspect is alien to me that I can't understand the thought process. I wasn't religious, but even things like the Big Bang I kept on the table as being possible. Most people in this world believe crazy shit like this. Your life is the result of an explosion from outer space. I mean, really stop to think about that. If people believe an absurdity of that magnitude, they'll believe anything. If they believe life came out of an explosion from space, they'd probably believe the clown from the movie It, Pennywise, is their real father. Their 23andMe comes back with ancestral roots from a little-known region in Romania, and the last Y chromosome on their piece of paper is labeled CLN. If the Big Bang is real, why haven't large universities performed the experiment themselves to create life on their own campus? I'm not joking. Why not explode a bunch of stuff here on Earth and see what happens? See if life forms. The conditions here have to be better than in deep, cold space. They could keep trying a bunch of different shit and combinations. Explode a few bottles of Mrs. Butterworth over a banana to see if life forms. Explode a hanger steak over a pile of Tootsie Rolls and add a splash of Mountain Dew. Any life yet? Not yet. Then damn it, add some more Mountain Dew. These scientists are the same people who told us that the planet Uranus smells like farts. I'm not kidding. It was a, quote, real news headline around 2016. Your anus smells like farts, was the headline. Supposedly because of the sulfur dioxide. In the most recent picture of the planet Pluto, the image contains the shape of Pluto, the Disney cartoon dog. Once again, I'm not joking. Go look it up. To those who can see without the glasses from the movie They Live, this reality has become frustrating because our friends and family still take it seriously. No matter how much the bozo meter is turned up, the people around us lap it up. Unfortunately, only a tiny group of us can see through it. The people in authority realized many years ago that they can present almost anything to your friends and family through their news outlets, and it will be believed. The screen reality that sits over the natural world is entirely fake, and 99% of the people who engage with it assist it in facilitating its trick. People have no idea they're living inside a script. It's written not to benefit them, but rather to feed something else. They can't see the cue cards floating in front of them. This is the genius of the dark reality's design. It's a billion actors who don't know they're actors. The world is not the Truman Show, though, where each actor knew they were playing a role and got into position when Truman approached them. This reality is one where everyone is Truman, and each cast member reinforces everyone else's illusion. 99% or more of the ship of fools are Trumans, managed by minions like Vicky, Isaac, and Captain Stubing. Matt, why are you talking about reality like it's alive or something? What the heck is this screen thing? Outer ring of what? What you talking about, Willis? Why are you talking about the world itself like it's a thing or it's sentient or something, you son of a beach? Okay, I hear you. We've come through many chapters. It's time to summarize the description of our adversary and what we're dealing with here before we move on. Creepy music would be nice, but I don't have any. There is something here with us on earth whose job it is to disrupt our spiritual journey. It crafts a massive trick which takes the form of society and culture that surrounds us. It lives by feeding off the negative energy and emotion of real people. Your job is simple: to see what's going on here, overcome its trick, and then do the self-work that it does not want you to do. That's it? That can't be it. That's it. It is that simple. Think about when you were on the ship of fools. It crafts its trick so everything on the ship seems normal. So there is nothing to investigate, and those that do investigate, like us, are loons. This thing here we talk about can't be pointed at or picked out of a police lineup. It has an army of people called minions who serve it by facilitating its trick and then propagating its way of thinking like a virus throughout all of government and society. For example, a German city in 2020 limiting licks of an ice cream cone on premises is just one of 10 billion ways that it manifests throughout all of culture and society. Basically, every category of questions in the Trivial Pursuit game now serves the master ruse. Well, there's history questions. That's right. History has even been adulterated and bastardized by this thing. Almost no one, though, who implements the trick knows a thing about it or what they're doing to assist it. Take your local news anchor or weather person, for example. When that line of storms comes in, they think they're helping out by constantly talking about the threat of tornadoes and suggesting about once a week that you should move into your basement with a magazine until 9 p.m. Most people here on Earth willingly feed this thing without any idea of how it has structured reality so it can eat. The master trick recruits millions of minions who move society where this thing wants society to go. The general populace that falls for the dark reality's trick I call the Ship of Fools. It's 1,000,000 times larger than the Pacific Princess, though. A few of us, like you and me, have dived off the back of the boat and are swimming away. This means we're separating from reality itself, which has metaphysical symptoms. As above, so below reminds us that our actions here and now extends into the spiritual realm where it's likely another part of us resides. I don't like to personify our adversary because our thoughts carry real creative energy. I put it this way because looking at the dark reality as an actual thing, at least for a short while, is the best way to understand what's going on here. For us to do what we need to do for ourselves, our adversary must be understood. I don't believe it thinks like you and I do, but in some way the screen, or the outer ring as a whole, behaves like it's alive, with aims and goals very apparent to a few of us. Almost any system of enough moving parts eventually becomes a thing in and of itself. Look no further than your own body. Cells make up organs. Organs make up systems, like the circulatory system, for example. In your body, systems work in coordination for a holistic benefit to you, without each smaller part likely being able to see the whole or being aware of the whole. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. The screen society and culture works the same way, and the role of all component parts working together is to be your spiritual adversary. It recruits minions on the ground and offers certain rewards for a job well done. These minions are not just bad guys like Bill Gates, Melvin. It's also things like Ryan Seacrest and your local weather person. When your friends and family believe in the lies it puts forth, they serve the dark reality like cells serve a body. When my aunt bowed down to Dr. F for 2 years and did everything he wanted, I hate to put it this way, but she was a minion of the system. It's not just Henry Kissinger types. Everybody that gets up in the morning and spends their entire waking hours doing exactly what this thing wants, in a way, is a minion. Remember the scenes in Return of the Jedi where Emperor Palpatine tries to recruit Luke over to the dark side? Well, that happens about a few million times every day around the world. But the recruiter here, the puller of the puppet strings here, is not as obvious as it was in Star Wars. The dark reality is not as easy to spot here as a Sith Lord sitting in a chair with his hood up, saying to Luke, "Good, good, strike me down." It's not that obvious here. Via the download, It infiltrates most of our family and friends and invisibly lives amongst us. A few of us, like you and me, have armor that protects from this. What makes us different? How did we develop this armor? We don't know for sure, but we'll talk about it in the future. Incredibly, today's adversary has most people thinking it's the good guy. The friendly society of today is simply Emperor Palpatine in a SpongeBob costume. It, of course, wants only what's best for you and hopes you stay safe. It doesn't want you to get sick. It worries that you won't get your airbag replaced before it hurts you or someone else. It cares so much for all of us. Unfortunately, only people like us can see its true nature. We see the act, and it's ruse. It's ruse. It's cunning attempt to trick us. It doesn't care one bit about our health or our welfare. It wants my goddamn airbag replaced for its own reasons. Today, what hangs over the natural world and encompasses society is something that is far more powerful than it was just 30 years ago. It has grown over many centuries, in my opinion, and refined its techniques, both to fool and to extract energy. I also call it the screen, the asshole dark, and the not milk, which is Clinton backwards. It doesn't deserve a cool name like Lando Calrissian or Nathaniel de la Violette. Important note, once you understand what it is, get an idea of what's going on here. Don't imagine it as a real thing or real being ever again. Never think of it as alive. Never grant it that gift from your imagination. Instead, picture the life going out of it, like an aircraft tire on Vesey Street with a slow leak. We in our community have been played and used thousands of times in the past to draw energy and attention toward things it wanted us to focus on. In a way, real people create reality, literally. Again, think of the outer ring or knot milk as how a system in the body operates, and many parts working together. Is your circulatory system sentient? Maybe, but probably not. Even though you could say it's alive and the heart is a vital component to inner knowing and the extraction of wisdom, regarding this screen or outer ring, there will never be a final boss-level bad guy to find and take off to jail. That's at the minion level. The minion level serves it. Its intelligence works through the whole and the millions of things that serve it and bow down to it. Think of a server farm versus one single chip, for example. After you have a general understanding of it, never think it's alive ever again. Imagine what you want it to be, though. Do that every day, but don't think of it as alive. If you want it to become a system that is breaking down and becoming an embarrassment, put that in your mind's eye and project that imagery outward onto the world every day. Never kiss the frog to make it a prince. That's how this community has been used more than any other way. The frog tries to become the prince by convincing the truth community to use words like controllers. What are the elite doing today? The Illumina, I can't even use the word, I'll get a banner ad. The Illumina, I can't even use the word. The dark thing here may seek to personify itself and become more real, like the frog eventually becoming the prince, through the status of its minions. In some way, it lives through the status of its minions, and we assign credibility by using those names of, respect. That's why I like not milk. It has set up the entire screen reality to extract energy from real people, ranging from the names it has granted its own minions to public spectacles where it will gather a Niagara Falls level of loosh like the recent King Charles coronation. King Charles. Coronation ceremony. Give me a break. I would rather attend a Backstreet Boys concert in Mogadishu than that. Matt, can we learn to transmute the trick and save society someday? Can we help everybody out? I hope so, but that's not the purpose of your journey. Worry about yourself is about 1 trillion times more important than saving society. That's a false trick, in my opinion. We disagree inside of our community. I'm going to worry about myself. Get out of here. Remember, I believe this harsh bozo show is structured the way it is for a reason. The clown show and all the nastiness here needs to exist. That's the way I see it, at least. It's the way it was designed. For you. For me. There's nothing to go out and save, in my opinion. As discussed, the world likely needs to be this screwed up for us to learn the lessons we came here for. We need to have the right perspective in examining our adversary. Most first-grade truthers fall for its trick, customized for their level of research. They project hate and fear on BitChute. That's falling for the trick. Yes, most who see the 7-Eleven job application and the movie Captain Hook with Robin Williams are still fooled. Those who even see a lot of the fraud like we do are still fooled. The screen knew that eventually many people would see through its presentations, so it did things to manage the process. Along the way, it has left thousands of mistakes on purpose to recruit and manage our group of researchers to keep us stuck in a cycle of fear and hate. People in our community still make videos about, say, a woman flying by on a wire on the International Space Station, and they believe they've caught a mistake. Look at this. We caught him this time. Oh, look at this. Here's a wire. Here's somebody grabbing an object that's not really there. Oh, boy, we got him. We got their mistake. What an absolute joke. Those mistakes were clearly intentional. The mistakes on purpose were put forth to draw out those of us who can see, so they can be discredited, isolated, identified, and marginalized within their own families and groups of friends. Here's good news, though. We have the upper hand. You see, the screen needs us. We don't need it, other than to help us learn something here and the reason we came here. But I'm saying it truly needs us, potentially to exist. It might not be able to exist on its own. Our creative powers are likely necessary in this formula. What good is a screen without a projector? You are the projector. It has recently gotten greedy, and it's no longer content to grow at the same speed that it did in the past. People like you and I have taken a step back in order to see the whole of the trick, which only then reveals its true intention. Most of our brethren in the truth research community work to get further into the weeds that it has planted. This 100,000-foot perception and looking down is the only way to see it and then overcome it. Our friends and family are the people most fooled because they're the deepest in the weeds of the illusion. The movie with Russell Crowe, A Beautiful Mind, clearly told us flat out that Adam Smith was wrong. The basic principles are correct, but to me, it was saying the world doesn't work the way people think, especially after John Nash's award-winning thesis was on collusion tactics and not Adam Smith's self-aim. Is this why the Three Musketeers is such an artificial stuffed Lenin today? All for one and one for all? Why is that story carried through time to such a degree? Is it really that great, or is it saying something else? You know what I think? Three Musketeers, all for one and one for all, that's John Nash's collusion paper 200 years before he assigned a mathematical model to it. Our friends, for example, see a government in isolation. They don't see the impossible coincidence of Nixon going to see China, opening up China in the 70s, and then China just 15 years later manufacturing almost everything in the world. Oh, they just outcompeted everybody, and no other country wanted manufacturing. No, it wasn't a script. You'd have to be one of those people. Your friends and family see a flag, and they're taken in by patriotism and national heritage, failing to see that the leaders of supposed rival nations are all sharing the same $2,000 bottle of cognac. They see a dictator doing his own thing that needs to be stopped when he got all his weapons from the same place that gives all these dictators their weapons. Your friends and family see a corrupt banker in a single news story in isolation, and they don't see how absurdly fake the entire banking system is. They don't step back to see how absurd the entire Federal Reserve System is. One guy in a recent scripted story, he was some sort of corrupt guy with crypto. His name was actually Bankman. His name was Bankman. Another Madoff with your money. Another Bernie Madoff with your money. What a comical reality script we live in. One of the main tactics that supports the script is to lure people closer and closer to it. If you get that close to it, you can't see it. They'll complain about it, but they can never see truly what's going on at the master level as the whole. If you're sleeping on King Kong's back, you can't see it's King Kong. We're the only group that backs up far enough to see the whole. And Matt, I can hear you. This assumes our friends and family want to see it. They don't. They're on some sort of a download. They don't want to back up. If our friends don't see the whole of what's happening, they certainly don't see the spiritual battle that's being waged at the transcendental or even metaphysical level. Your cousins and your neighbors give the screen their life energy and the attention it craves every day by falling for all aspects of its trick. Coming soon as I write this, one of its main courses on the menu, the presidential election cycle. Oh no, here we go again. The screen will feed from this energy, grow, and become even more powerful. I acknowledge that we in our research community do at times give it energy that comes from our attention as we study it. We need to study it. I feel this is necessary. We must understand our adversary to overcome it. We're learning over time to separate and to starve it, detach from it, etc. One of the main points of this book is, as you transition to part 2, the work, leave the conspiracy research and the allure of its wonder behind for good. Scary truth research is a neurological and chemical addiction. There is no doubt that if I were a fear-based channel, I would have 500,000 subscribers, because those channels are promoted. One more reason to move on is we now see that reality itself is a conspiracy generation machine that very unnaturally produces research topics. Too many chocolates endlessly come down the assembly line. Each begs for your attention. Each looks succulent. You want to put it in your mouth. No real world could do that time after time. Endless chocolates, endless topics. It's ridiculous. Researching a topic is taking the chocolate into your mouth. When you're ready to graduate, never again give it your attention, at least the outer screen. Starve the thing out. This is hard to do. It's like quitting cigarettes. I'm not just trying to make a point. Your body, in a way, is addicted to the dark truth research. We all are. This is why for years I would get far more thumbs up from a dark reality discussion than a video titled, "I have great news for all of us." That didn't get many thumbs up at all. It's the reason I get a few hundred subscribers per month, and I've seen fear channels move up by 10,000 a month. Maybe no longer, but we've witnessed this in the past. Fear channels moving up 10,000 a month in subscriber base. Most of the truth community today does not want good news. They crave another video about a soccer player falling over during a match. What started in our community has spilled over to other segments of YouTube. For example, there are 100 movie review channels who do nothing more than preach hate and disdain for the movie studios, the directors, the producers, and the writers who have destroyed our beloved characters. The sheer amount of fail videos associated with media actually gives them away as a new segment for the egregore to harness and extract energy in a similar way they've done inside the truth community for 15 years. Millions are now addicted to hating the movie studios, and the reality will see to it that hosts like The Critical Drinker will pop up to direct this negative energy in the way dark reality wants. Going away from the book for a second, this has been proven out over the last few weeks. The reality always gives these type of movie reviewers something they can hate on, something they can use to harness this negative energy. And right now, of course, it's the horrible, and it is horrible, Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny, or whatever it's called. It is a horrible movie. It does destroy the character. But they pile on in the thousands of videos. It is a louche extraction. I'm convinced of this at this point. They present themselves as just general movie and series, Disney Plus series review channels. And although there hasn't been much good, you can just see there's never equal billing between the good and the bad. Okay, because some are saying this new Mission Impossible is very good. Robot Head and others have come out and said it's very good. But if you look, especially Nerdrotic and some of the others, if you look at all the videos over months and months, because they have to seem legitimate, there might be 5 videos saying something's great versus 150 or so saying how horrible or how bad Disney is, how evil is, the writers, and it's not, the negative to the positive is not equal. And if anybody's screaming at me and saying, well, the what they've produced hasn't been very good, I hear you. But just they give themselves away. The Witcher Season 3 is pretty darn good if you're a Henry Cavill Witcher fan. Season 1 was very good. 2 was horrendous. 3 came back pretty darn strong, considering how horrible Season 2 was. These movie reviewers, Nope, their whole sites are about negativism. Almost no mention that Witcher Season 3 is very, very good. A few videos, yeah, but not 1,000 to 1 versus, say, the Indiana Jones. Just like every other facet in society, the movie reviewers aren't in on it. They're not having secret meetings with Skeletor. They're similar to your weather person. Dark men in black don't come in and tell the weather people to scare the shit out of people. Every chance, now listen to me, weather person, any chance there's even 1% chance of a tornado, you tell people to run to the basement. They never got that sort of instruction, yet they do exactly what the Not Nilk wants. These movie reviewers, at least this whole class of them, focusing on the negative, they're doing exactly what the Not Nilk wants. It's very similar to the Download or anyone else on the Ship of Fools. I think the Not Nilk actually perfects its fear and its negative tactics. It's perfected it inside our own truth community. It's used us and taken these tactics and how it can manipulate out to other facets. And one facet that's clearly following along in another area that's just generating endless negative loosh is this slew of movie reviewers that do nothing more than hate on the movie studios. Go look at the video lineup for, say, Nerdrotic. Fail, hate, Disney sucks. They're loosh extractors. There's no doubt about it, in my opinion. This thing we study always has multiple goals in everything it does. It doesn't just do one thing in isolation. It is evil genius in this regard. So if the 10-year plan, as we've been talking about, is to take down the 2D experience, the watching a screen experience, it's not moving a human close enough to the digital for its likes. It wants the VR headset. It wants the brain chip. Take down the television. Take down the movie experience. Take down any 2D experience. If it's going to do this over 10 to 15 years, and it's going to destroy, well, I'm sure it thinks, why not extract as much energy that it can feed on as possible? So create a Kathleen Kennedy type character. Create, without them knowing what they're doing, hundreds and hundreds of these really horrible, negative movie reviewing sites. And it, in some way, it will draw on that energy as it transitions from 2D to VR headset. It will get every ounce out of every drop out of the washcloth. That might be another reason for the way it's destroying movies at this moment in history. The study of our adversary and the details that I call the bog is necessary until it is no longer necessary. I have no regrets that I spent almost 3 years, like 10 years ago, I spent 3 years doing nothing other than breaking down fake bang events. That's all I did. I was a little Russian vids disciple, and I appreciate for what he shared with me. Okay, we move on though. I now see I was doing exactly what it wanted. Nevertheless, I was able to exit the elevator. The key is not to say or be embarrassed that you're on the graduated animal farm. The key is to eventually move on and say, I was there, but I moved on. The Not Nilk understands that those researching in the bog have the chance at least to step out and graduate someday. Those in the bog have a chance, unlike your friends and family. They'll never get into the bog. They think it's lunacy to research one thing that we look into. Okay, it knows those in the bog, they have a chance. They have a chance to break out. It does not want anyone achieving the final level of Metroid. So the Not Nilk works to feed the bog with more and more temptations, which is conspiracy research and topics, in hopes that only a tiny few are strong enough to quit the addiction and step out of the bog for good someday. The first step in quitting the addiction must be to back up and look down, finally, to see the whole of what it's out to do to real people. Like that Jack Nicholson character said in A Few Good Men, but slightly different, it wants you back in those weeds. It needs you back in those weeds, for that is where its energy is derived. In this light, research topics like, pick one in our community, Tartaria. It's easy to see what it is if you view it like this. In this light, it matters not even if the conclusions in terms of that topic that's being examined, even if it's all accurate. Let's say everything research, these mud flood researchers, they get it all right. It's all right. Every bit of it, every picture they put forth, it's all correct. Everything they've put into it. Okay, now what? What did that do for you? Let's say you're right. What does that do for you? What did you do the 5 years of research for? Well, I wasted my time too. But eventually I was able to see that this is a bog, this is a temptation, this is where it wants me. So I was able to see my predicament and then step out of it, back up and step out. Okay, guys, coming up is that section on the fraternity. Again, I hope you stick with me. I think it's written far better than when I first presented it, but I have done this before. This is going to get a little bit long if everybody has to run. I hope to catch you then on the next chapter. Matt, I still don't understand. What is this unseen bad guy in the shadows you keep talking about? Isn't it just bad people? What is this screen thing? Not Milk, Asshole Dark, all these names I've heard you use. All right. It's time for an explanation, an analogy, a simple example that may be able to assist people or anybody new in understanding our adversary, or at least how it extracts energy. The final bad guy is actually the hole that can't be seen, the screen or the outer ring. The people on the news doing bad things are called minions. That's the lower level. These people serve the desires of something that lurks in the shadows. Cliché language, but I don't have any other way to put it. Stuff's hard to talk about. For now, think of it like a frequency that moves through the air. Think of the bad guy like everyone in society is tuned to a certain radio station that people like us no longer choose to receive. Here's a dark yet fun example to better understand how I think the dark reality works. So this is the story of a certain fraternity on a college campus somewhere in Midwest United States. In a weather-stained stone building said to be older than the university itself, the dark mansion sits just off campus like a relic from another time. Like the state capitol buildings of the United States, built during the Gilded Age, erected before their own cities even existed, it's rumored that this mansion was there first, in a way, waiting for the students that it knew would be coming someday. At this time, it's important for you, the listener, to know that this fraternity was originally founded for one reason: to corrupt its own members. Its original charter was to bring down and destroy the lives of its own brothers. Surely such a thing could not exist. Yes, it most certainly can, for this fraternity is a metaphor for something much greater, the dark reality itself. So in 1911, when the university opened its doors to enrollment, the house on the hill was waiting to have life breathed into it. When the first student walked through the massive walnut double doors, the house woke up. In this analogy, the fraternity is the not milk, the screen, or the outer ring of reality. As a lesser egregore in the isolated setting of a college campus, how could it accomplish the goals of its dark charter? Of course, it would start with what is both easiest and consistently effective: distraction. Bad grades and failing out had always been the easiest way for the fraternity to see to its quotas and fulfill its demonic charter. If, on occasion, it can manipulate circumstances to put some brothers in jail or destroy relationships in others, then it feeds on that as well. For decades, the house has been known as the biggest party house in the country. It offers every temptation in the world for those students who live inside the frat house. So for most, getting good grades becomes extremely difficult, if not impossible. It has 70-inch televisions in every main room, and PlayStation alternates with Xbox under each one of them. There is a line of beer refrigerators downstairs, next to the pool table, that somehow are always stocked full. Strangely, the delivery truck comes late on a Thursday night. There's no massive beer ad on the side of the truck. There's no markings at all. None of the delivery people that deliver the beer ever ask for a signature or present a bill. Like clockwork, there always seems to be a big party right before the most important final exams. Why the party is not at the end of exam week is never questioned. Its interior design would put a Parisian law firm to shame, and the girls on campus love to come through the massive walnut doors to marvel at the beauty of the place. It has vaulted ceilings showing off masterpiece paintings and is a mix of modern conveniences and old-world architecture of brick and stone. The kitchen staff is always ready to prepare meals for whomever wants to eat day or night. The parties have no exclusive list on who can attend. The house observes the university rules to a minimum and welcomes in as many as possible. Even the local fire code ordinance has been worked around, as a retractable roof makes one part of the house a patio by legal designation. Of course, to the community at large, the fraternity puts on the good face of an upstanding citizen, just like the Gates Foundation and the World Health Organization does. It has mimicked itself after the fraudulent organizations of the world that proclaim they're doing what is best for people. The frat is always written about as a loving member of society and a valuable asset in the Greek community. The fraternity members proudly wear their sweatshirts around campus with 3 big magenta letters sewn into the chest: Nu, Omicron, Tau. The students on campus simply call the frat Not. So much time has gone by and so many brothers have come and gone that none of the current residents fully understand how the house functions. It's rumored that the founders had an obscene amount of money, and the current brotherhood figures there's some sort of endowment or trust that pays all the bills. The alumni must be taking care of it, they all assume. The obscene electric bill, property taxes, landscaping, snow removal, broken windows from parties, boiler room service, roof leak repairs, it all just kind of happens and everybody thinks somebody else is taking care of paying the bill. When the 20-foot hot tub breaks, somehow a man is there early in the morning to fix it. No bill presented. No one really stops to think about, well, who made the service call? Every month, a photographer of some kind shows up to take pictures of the place for a long list of publications interested in the famous mansion. The brothers got used to that sort of attention years ago. When somebody from the press shows up, the young initiates see to their needs. Each semester, 4 pledges are trained to give the same tour of the house over and over. Spawned by the magic of its initial charter and gaining power over the decades, the frat has become what's called an egregore, a thought-form entity, also called a tulpa. In September of 2001, it felt a wave of energy pass through it the likes of which it had never experienced before. Soon after, things became easier for it. It no longer needed to rely on simple distraction, so the students doomed themselves to failure. Today it has the power to influence those members who have embraced it the most. In other words, it has grown into an entity in and of itself, possessing a degree of intelligence, and now understands its general mission and purpose. It has the most control over those brothers who covet the lifestyle and prestige the house provides. In other words, those who have the most to lose bow down the lowest before it. Via the Greek letters Nu, Omicron, Tau, it was given a name a long time ago, and as a personified entity, has garnered its own reputation separate from the brotherhood. It has found a way to draw energy from every party that takes place, and has techniques to siphon louche or emotional energy from both brothers and their guests. 100 years ago, it didn't have many tools to work with, and its primitive sentience lacked influence. From 1911 to about 1960, it struggled to perform its mission, and was only marginally successful, with its only method of distraction being big parties. Today, electricity flows to 500 sockets and 20 5G Wi-Fi routers connect hundreds of devices that the brothers plug into every day. In the basement, a small server farm hosts a T1 internet line said to bypass the town's own phone company. It has used the brain of the internet to expand its awareness. It communes with other egregores around the world that have similar missions. It has conversations with AI language models that no human eyes will ever gaze upon in order to share information about overcoming its adversary. In this, quote, new century, it has revised its techniques and has become increasingly more efficient in fulfilling its mission to corrupt students semester after semester. Pushed on by idiotic TV shows like Ridiculousness, the legendary stunts of the brothers during their biggest parties have to get more and more outrageous every year to outdo the prior pledge class. Every 2 years, a man like Otter from Animal House is elected president of the frat, so the party climate of the fraternity never changes. The president-elect in 2003, who wanted to clean up the frat, tragically fell into a well. Every semester, about the same percentage of brothers fail out, forced to leave school, replaced by the next pledge class, with each young man considering themselves lucky to be selected. Each knows of its dark reputation and what happens to many who live in the house, but they use a variety of crude rationalizations to convince themselves it won't happen to them. Self-delusion to quell fears is easy after observing all the beautiful women come and go from the house as they walk by as freshmen. The allure of being a part of the famous fraternity is too strong for a pledge who is offered membership not to accept, for the house is not just legendary on this particular campus, but is known to every Greek organization in the world today. Now it's 2023, and the frat, which has become a sentient entity, has finally perfected its craft. Last month, a record 7 students flunked out, and 2 were arrested. 1 jumped off the roof. The frat's been investigated by the university and by various levels of law enforcement. It's been studied by other universities in order to understand why so many of its pledges failed to graduate and why others end up in jail or worse. No matter how bad it gets, it still, though, graduates just enough brothers to put forth the same Goldilocks position year after year to those who put it under the microscope and want to examine what is going on in the frat. The research and investigations always yield the same result. No one can find a systemic or underlying problem other than the lack of discipline displayed by the brothers who fail out. Every new pledge is smart, with impeccable high school grades, so it all doesn't add up to those who investigate. Last year, the university provost, whatever that is, set an even higher academic standard on pledges in order to combat the abysmal failure rate of the frat, but the statistics never improve. Like the dark part of reality itself, there is no bad guy to point at inside the fraternity. There is no obvious culprit or reason why so many brothers have had their lives destroyed before graduation. There is no one sneaking around in the middle of the night, stealing homework assignments, or placing opioids in the drinking water. The percentage of brothers who don't fail out are loving life, and their grades are decent. 1 or 2 brothers every semester has straight A's, proving to the university investigators that getting good grades is possible for those living inside the house. After every investigation, the same question is asked. How is this happening? Why are so many lives destroyed? The brotherhood is just large enough where if one of them is forced to leave the house because of bad grades or other reasons, they're missed for a few days, but quickly forgotten by the end of the next party. It's a mystery of grand proportion. The current president of the fraternity is not getting secret orders or strategies on how to corrupt his own brothers. He loves them. If placed on a lie detector test, he'd pass with flying colors, saying that he's doing his very best as his role as president to help everyone. He simply believes it's his duty to follow the traditions that made the house famous. He believes in personal responsibility, freedom. It's not the fault of the house, but of the individuals that have squandered their opportunities. He can point to many graduates who have gone on to be world-famous entrepreneurs and politicians. He won't ban parties or lock the place down to improve grades. The president can maintain his B average, so why can't the others do it? It's their problem, not his. He won't turn the place into a nunnery to save a few bad apples from themselves at everyone else's expense. The list of alumni who have been massive successes inside corporations and government is long. In this example, the frat is the screen, the not milk, or the asshole dark. It's very much like the ship in the movie Event Horizon. The Event Horizon influenced certain crew members to get what it wanted. It needed a crew and could not exist on its own, just as the fraternity needs the brotherhood, just as the not milk needs its minions and its passengers on the ship of fools. As the ship in the movie gained energy from real people, which was Lawrence Fishburne's crew, it started to act like it was alive, and in a way, it became sentient. Regarding the people it could not recruit to assist it, it terrified, like it did to Captain Miller. It sensed who was willing to help it, and how to get rid of the others who could hinder its progress, and it refined its techniques to get them out of the way. Unlike the spaceship in the movie, the frat does not kill off brothers who are no longer in love with the house and the lifestyle that it promotes. Lest we forget, this is a college. The frat need only make sure they fail classes to get rid of them at the most basic level. In this example, the frat and the dark part of reality at the metaphysical level are very similar. The dark part of reality wants you, as the brightest souls here, to fail your spiritual exams. Using the word evil is just a way to understand it. It's not evil, per that definition. It's just doing its job, the job it was constructed to do. The not milk is playing the role that was designed for it. The fraternity house was built and chartered for a reason. It was not built with good intentions, and then it became demonically possessed to take over like an Amityville fraternity house. This society, this frat's job, is to try to gain power and use its spiritual fog machine so people get lost in its mist. This is what whoever designed this reality asked it to do. Some believe it has overstepped its contract and gotten out of control. That's possible, but it matters not at this point from our perspective. No matter how strong it gets, no matter how much it continues to refine its techniques, winning or losing is still up to us. It's solely our responsibility. Spell soul as you would like. It has no say in the matter if we simply decide to win. This is the best news of all time. First-grade truthers and trolls hate what I just said and will scream insults at me, accusing me of making excuses for it.
Well, Matt believes it's not really evil. It was designed this way. He's giving it a pass.
Believe what you want. That's what it is when you back up far enough and look down at the whole of it.
They believe what I just said means I have some sort of affinity for it, like those who love the Lochnar in the movie Heavy Metal.
These are the same people who love fear videos and follow the old man in a chair, saying hundreds of millions will soon be dropping over because of you-know-what. I have no time for these nursery school buffoons. However, I doubt anybody listening to me now, or that's here with us, believes what the first-grade truther does, that it's our job to go fight it, and it's our job to get the pickup truck army together and restore the world. That is the mantra of the fear-addicted. That is its false carrot. This book is for those truly ready to graduate, not dolts addicted to fear porn. In the movie Event Horizon, Lawrence Fishburne says to Lieutenant Stark, "What are you saying, Stark, that this ship is alive?" Yes, in a way, the ship was alive in the movie via the energies it brought back from hell and the alternative dimensions it had visited using its gravity drive to fold time and space. It gained additional energy from the ship's crew and their fear, and Dr. Weir in the movie was its minion, like Melvin is here. The ship in the movie was an egregore of sorts. The dark reality, in a way, draws energy in a similar fashion as the Event Horizon ship, and uses the energy it collects from real people like the fraternity does in our example. In the frat house, the energy it draws was from its own membership and party guests, and that sort of activity. Likewise, the energy the screen reality draws, or the dark reality, gets its energy from a massive population that willingly chooses to engage with society's trick. This entire culture is structured in such a way that it has a million ways to steal people's energy. Where attention goes, energy flows. The not-milk is the corruptor that hangs over the natural world, and it uses the tools it has access to in each era of history in which it operates to feed and propagate itself. Quite obviously, not-milk has used the internet age to exponentially increase its reach and capabilities millions of times over what existed just 30 years ago. Hundreds of years ago, its tools were very limited. It was forced to work through asshole minions called the leadership of the era, like emperors and kings and queens and the sheriff of Nottingham. The introduction of the internet gave an absurd amount of tools to what we call not-milk. With AI on the horizon, it will draw even more power and influence over the masses. By our heel, we care not. I'm not here to save my blind friends and family, and neither should you. We are in the driver's seat. It can do nothing to us that we don't allow. We, you and I, are brothers living in this particular frat who finally understand its intentions and whose armor is such that it wields no influence on us as long as we keep the sword oiled and the armor polished. Thanks for listening.